Yeah, and then that second track, I liked Doubt on the electric guitar and the rhythm that matched it. I thought his flow on the first verse was really good. It reminded me of like Afro Man, more like Cause I Got High, but just it was like a double time version of that in terms of the soundscape that they created. And I thought it was really well executed.
Let me put you on game.
And let's get into our album review. We got to talk about our guy, Saba. He is back with his new project. If you're not familiar with Saba, he is a Chicago MC. He had his debut album, Care for Me, come out a couple years ago to widespread critical acclaim. He's back with his new album, Few Good Things, and we're going to review it today. I got into this project. I listened to Care for Me a couple times a few years ago. I liked it, but it's not a project that I return to a whole lot. But with Few Good Things, it really surprised me with how it sounded. It took a lot of getting used to because I'm used to Saba kind of being a rapper's rapper, and he was experimenting a lot with different melodies. He was a lot more melodic. It was a lot more sing-songy. There was a lot more grooves on this album than his previous work. But overall, I'd say I enjoyed it. I think that there's a lot to like about this album, and it really gave a different side to him as an artist that I actually enjoyed a good bit. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting album that had a very clear and artistic direction. It seemed as though he was like kind of going for reflection of what constitutes a well-lived or happy life as far as the content of the project. And I like some of the conclusions that he came to in terms of that money isn't everything, just kind of being grateful for being where you are in life. The production in particular, it really leaned heavily on guitar elements and kind of alt rock themes that was fused with hip hop. And it really created a unique and captivating sound in a lot of spots. I think that there were some misses though, and some stuff there that like was like just this close to being transcendent, but was just missing something. And but overall, despite that, I think he's really skilled at creating a unique sound, and I'm impressed with his skills as a producer and the production team that he has around him. And I can't wait to kind of get into the track by track listening.
Yeah, it's very jazzy as well in spots. And I came away really impressed with, even though he's not rapping as heavily on a lot of these songs in terms of like percentage of time compared to singing to rapping. But when he did rap, I thought that he had a lot of really notable moments that we can get into. The album opens with free samples. I think it set the tone for how melodic the album was going to be. I thought it was more of a melodic intro, but it really sets the tone for what the album itself is. I love Saba and his rapping on the second half. He had a bar where he said, "I still get nostalgic seeing houses that my family lost. They wish upon a star. I caught it like I'm Randy Moss." So he has some real cool bars in there. One way, or every nigga with a budget. I love the subtle guitar on there. It sounds a little bit like '90s pop rock, like you were saying, alternative a little bit. It's a very simple but a very catchy chorus, and I like the risks that he takes in this particular song sonically, and the risks kind of extend throughout the album. And then there's a bit of a change of pace with Survivor's Guilt with G Herbo, very off kilter beat and a chorus that I think really works. And on this track, I had to like genius it and see who was rapping where because he sounded like a
Yeah,
completely different artist on the song. But yeah, and then it goes into that interlude that's just a short little serene snippet that leads us into the next section of the album. But I thought it was a cool open that I enjoyed.
yeah. On free sample, he kind of comes out the gate with the guitar elements, and they go from electric to bass guitar to acoustic guitar at different spots in the project. Here, it was more bass guitar with a melody that gave me like hints of a Thundercat in terms of the production style. It was smooth, interesting bars that were reflective. It wasn't lyrically extravagant, and that's kind of something that I found at different points in the album where the lyricism was really high in some spots and just average to mediocre or unremarkable in others.
Do you think that was a
But
result of like the melodicness of it? Because I guess
I
like
think
when it's more melodic, maybe you can't pack so many lyrics into like that section because you kind of want to focus on the grooves of it. So that could be a reason why. But I can see what you mean. It's not as lyrically dense in certain spots.
Yeah, and that kind of made it me for me as a listener, it made it hard to get into a groove as I was really honing in on how I felt about the album. It but that'll come out as I talk about the different tracks. Yeah, and then that second track, I liked Dowd on the electric guitar and the rhythm that matched it. I thought his flow on the first verse was really good. It reminded me of like Afro Man, more like Cause I Got High, but just it was like a double time version of that in terms of the soundscape that they created. And I
Mm,
thought it was really well executed. Then moving into Survivor's Guild, I thought it was a bit clunky, but the chorus was definitely a headbanger, and his second verse, he really found the groove of his flow and his cadence, and it came on really strong at that point. The interlude was nice. I enjoy the flow and the acoustic guitar elements there. But then going into probably my favorite stretch of the album, Fearmonger, without the multiple guitar layers, was really nice touch with the rhythm. His flow was unique. The pre-chorus was really something special, and it gave me vibes of Outkast, The Whole World. Like
mm,
that's kind of the world, the mood that it put me in. So I really enjoyed that. The bridge was good. He did some outstanding bridge work throughout this whole project. Just a really
yeah.
well crafted song here from start to finish. Come My Way, featuring Crazy Bone from Bone Thugs and Harmony, was a really nice piece. Very spacey atmosphere, the echoey sound effects, more good use of the guitar. Really entertaining and smooth flow. Bone had a nice feature, and the beat was kind of a feature that I think Bone Thugs and Harmony would have murdered back in the '90s. So I really like that he incorporated someone who was perfect for this beat into the song. Then moving into Still, featuring Six Lack and Smino. Um, more bass guitar that was backed by a really punchy and engaging beat. The melody was rangy, and created like a deep sonical rhythm that was really complemented by Black's vocals. And the hook was really contrasted with well-paced verses. And so I like that, that back and forth, up and down with the hook and the verses. Saba's first verse was really good, and Shimino delivered a really nice verse as well. I just thought it was a good song, and this was probably my favorite stretch, going into a simpler time with Mareba.
Yeah, I liked Fearmonger as well. It was very reminiscent of some of the lighter spots on To Pimp a Butterfly for me, even with
Mm,
his vocals on the chorus. Kendrick does that like bad
yes.
but good singing like falsetto. It was like really weird and quirky. I think
Yeah.
he that was kind of a nod to that, because I think he lists Kendrick as one of his influences as well. He mentions him later on the album too. Uh, Come My Way, I thought, perfect track to ride to. Still, Smino continues to kill all his features. Excited for whatever he drops because I think he's one of the more charismatic artists. There's no one like him really. He has such a unique, different sound that I really, really enjoy. A Simpler Time, I love how that erratic production and how it pairs with the guitar. Uh, Soldier, I think, is one of the most interesting songs on the album and probably one of the more interesting songs I've heard recently. I think it's an interesting parallel that he draws between being a parent that's unprepared to have a child and feeling like he's going to war because he came up in a violent environment. So it's an intriguing discussion that he has about the anxiety surrounding both. One section that stood out to me lyrically is where he said, I'm dying from asphyxiation from the weight of the world while in the waiting room waiting for the birth of my girl. How I'm gonna be a troop to trying to lead the troop of my own. Do you know what they do to a home? So he's basically just, kind of waxing poetic about the juxtaposition between the two. So you know, it really hit home in that way. If I
Mm,
Had a Dollar, I think it's a really good song about persistence in the face of failure. Um, Stop That, I think it was almost like a drill like beat that I really enjoyed. I think it showcased how good of a rapper he is. Inspiring lyrics about believing in and betting on yourself. And then that kind of gets into Make Believe, which I thought was just okay. That was the one track that kind of seemed pretty skippable to me. But overall, yeah, really solid section.
yeah. My sentiments on Soldier, I really thought the song was a good vibe. The hook gave me Kendrick Lamar vibes, and I felt that influence there. The way
Mhm.
he kind of layered his vocals, and that created a harmony on the hook. And his first verse, the flow is very reminiscent of Andre 3000. I don't know if you picked up on that, but those flows were
Mhm.
really impressive. It was well produced, it was creative, more spacey production. The beat and the tempo were good. And the bridge, more good bridge work, man. The way he crafts this, he just really crafts these songs well from start to finish. I feel like no section of the song is just placed there. It's all purposeful. And I appreciate that from a production standpoint. If I Had a Dollar was really nice. It was a nice departure. It gave me kind of Linkin Park style, like feelings, with the spacey electric guitar and the hip hop tempo and theme. It was as close as I think he would get to, rock. And I would love to see him do a song with Kenny Mason, because he has captured that sound that Kenny Mason does well in terms of when he experimented on Angelic Hoodrat Supercut, with
Mm.
the rock elements that he throw in there. So I would love to see them do some type of collaboration, because I think they could create something pretty impressive. Stop That, I was like kind of up and down on. I thought it was mostly unremarkable. The beat was nice, and it wasn't as creative and dynamic, and he got the chance to be more lyrical, but his lyricism wasn't all that impressive to me. So the song overall just didn't hit. Make Believe I liked. I thought it was a nice touch. Um, Especially at the end of the previous song, Stop That, and how it transitioned into this song, being like kind of like a voice message that was being left. And I like his storytelling, behind the more gentle guitar elements and the way that the beat builds up through the song. I thought it was a nice touch. Fushi's vocals, or Foshi's, I think Foshi's were
Fouché.
nice. Fouché.
Went all around the world on that one.
Yeah, Fouché's vocals were nice, but a little underwhelming. And going into these last two tracks, I thought that they were just okay. 2012, it was again
What?
more. Yeah, it was just okay for me. I like the storytelling in 2012, as in terms of, and the alt rock vibe that he created with his reflection of his past life through story. Um, it just didn't. These last two tracks just didn't do it that well for me. I thought that they were fine, but they weren't spectacular. And I wanted to kind of be blown away at that more. And I wanted to get some more vibes that I got in the beginning of the project, where I felt like the sound was more dynamic, where I felt like the lines were punchier. He had some nice lines here and there peppered in, but it just overall, it just didn't land for me. I thought A Few Good Things was a pretty decent outro. The beat was more hip hop, but as far as the mixing goes, I felt like he was on his first two verses, he was almost competing with the beat. It wasn't very smooth, even though he had nice lines here and there. I felt like the beat was doing one thing, he was doing another in terms of just the sound and the octave, like the volume. And so I think that if they would have just mixed it a little bit differently, it would have landed better. But as a listener, I'm just like, okay, am I engaging with the beat at this point? Am I engaging with his lyrics? They were competing for attention, and I didn't like that. Black Thought's verse was nice, and I thought that the third part of the song was probably the best part. It was nice. It was nice that he introduced the acoustic guitar and ended on that note, which kind of rounded out the whole theme. Like I said, the artistic theme of the project, which was embedded in reflection and um, self thought.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you on the second to last track, 2012. I thought it was just a nice, cool look at a nostalgic young love. Few Good Things I really enjoyed though a lot. I thought it was elite rapping from both of them. I think Black Thought is one of the more underrated rappers. I think he's one of the best rappers in the world, just bar for bar. He had that stretch that I just thought was like elite for me. He said her old soul remind you of somebody's abuela's. It's smooth the way she dip into her mental capoeira. When she's staring at you into your soul, you try not to let her. And now and then you might get a word, if not an operetta, when she take it upon herself to drop an acapella. Like he just had like a nice, like bouncy scheme there. And I thought that it was impressive that Saba was able to hold his own. He said niggas repping blocks like the taxi wars, but the thing about turf is that it never actually grows. So just that bar about like,
Mm.
you know, sectioning off areas based on gangs or whatever else, like it kind of puts a damper on your community's ability to actually grow and thrive. So just like a really simple bar, but it stood out to me. Or it's like the cool shit he said about how the only thing changed when I paid for that tennis shoe, like Eminem on the stage for he blew, this is living proof. Like I just thought it was a cool bar. I thought he had some moments on there. I could see how some things certainly didn't come together, but I think that there's a lot of promise in the project. It may not be as good as Care for Me for some people. It makes me kind of actually want to go back and revisit that project because I do remember enjoying it. I just never really went back to it, but I thought this was a solid follow up. But you have three favorite tracks?
Yeah, give me Fearmonger, Come My Way, and Soldier. I think those are probably his best offerings on this. How about you?
I'll go A Few Good Things, title track. Soldier, and let me get Survivor's Guilt. But yeah, cool album. Really enjoyed it. Um, if you had to recommend this to our listeners on a scale of hard pass to must listen, what would you tell them?
I would tell him to give it a shot. I think that there's some really good songs on this project. Songs that I legitimately enjoy, could make it even on my end of year playlist. But there aren't enough fireworks for me to rate it any higher. His rapping was adequate in some spots, like I said, with some exceptional bars, but it wasn't sonically with what well, not sonically. The bars are there in spots, but it wasn't everywhere. And I think sonically the album is really good, but I don't think it does the best job of blending those two, the beats and the lyrics. And so for an album to be rated high for me, like I want to hear better bars for every song that and the flow and the cadence that is complementary as opposed to kind of grinding at one another, competing with each other for presence. But I think that overall, to give it a shot, and I think there's definitely some stuff to enjoy here.
Yeah, I think I might surprise you, but despite my high praise during the review, I think I'll also go give it a shot as well. Um, I think we just thinking about the albums that we've reviewed in the past in the context of albums that we've highly recommended. I think it's a little bit better than Give It a Shot, but I don't quite think it's where those highly recommended albums are. So I have to settle with Give It a Shot because, yeah, I just don't think it's a project that I'll necessarily go back to as a whole.
Yeah.
It's an album that you really got to be in the mood for, but I don't know uh, if I like it enough to go back to it. Like I think there's other albums that I would put on if I was in that kind of mood that do it for me a little bit better. But I don't want it to come off like I'm like, down on Saba because I do think he's really, really talented. I just think that this
Yeah.
album isn't necessarily the best that he has to offer going forward. I think that there's a better album in him somewhere. But I do actually enjoy this. I just don't know if it has a lot of replay value for me. So I mean,
Yeah.
we'll see though. It's early.
Yeah, yeah. His production skills are excellent. I think that him, especially in features, are pretty solid. Every song that I've heard him featured in, I've enjoyed. Especially like the breakout track with Chance the Rapper, Angels, that came out what 7 years ago now. My God, where's the time going? The kid has talent, and he is able to do some unique stuff. So I want to continue to see him innovate and just take more chances.
Yeah. Nah, I feel you. Well, we'll see though. He has a bright future though. I really enjoyed a lot of the rapping that he did on this album.